Welcome to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio with author, speaker, and your host, Pat Rouleau. Finally, someone willing and able to blow the top off hidden healthcare and hospital dangers. She's provocative, upbeat, balanced, fearless, fresh. Pat has over 20 years of experience as a professional public speaker and knows how to approach this important subject with enough humor and wit to keep you informed, entertained, and empowered. Each week you will say, "Oh," as Pat explores and exposes little-known hospital hazards, delves into the deep waters of dangerous healthcare practices, picks the brains of her good-looking and influential guests to help keep you and your family safe in today's fragmented healthcare system. The program is not intended to replace medical advice from a licensed professional, but rather to encourage you to become a well-informed participant in your health and well-being. And now, your host, Pat Rouleau.
Hello, I'm Pat Rouleau, and I will be your hostess, your one-stop patient safety radio hostess. And if you've heard the show before, you know that I will spend the next hour serving you a generous helping of everything you need to know to help you and your loved ones stay safe during any doctor or hospital visit. And to do that, I thought it appropriate to begin fall where we left summer off, and that is with the famed Dr. Peter Pronovost. He's such an important voice in today's patient safety world, and he's back again this week to answer a new batch of emails sent by you, our loyal and appreciated listeners. So pour yourself some apple cider, sit back and enjoy this first full weekend of fall, and listen as we rake in some life-saving tips and tools for you to use and share. And now it's time for the healthcare hazard of the week. The Hindsight Triplets. Shoulda, woulda, and coulda. As I continually reflect on my mom's 4-month hospital experience, I always come away with these 3 characters: shoulda, woulda, and coulda. I should have done this. I could have asked that. What would have been different had I known this or that? And it all comes back to 2 missing pieces. One was knowledge or experience. The other was a voice. My voice, or lack of. Sometimes I didn't have enough knowledge about the situation. Not being a medical person, many times I simply didn't understand words, procedures, and the science behind the decisions. I didn't have healthcare experience, but more often than that, it was difficult to find and have a voice for the ever-present fear of being snubbed, scorned, impatiently scoffed at, or perhaps receiving worse treatment by the doctors and nurses for having questioned them. Now, I'm not shy about standing up for what I believe, think, and feel, and as a whole, during those months, I did a pretty good job of watching, listening, learning, and speaking up. However, there are still so many instances, as I look back, that might have altered the entire experience had I only done this, asked that, or, the triplets, shoulda, woulda, coulda. My mom was scheduled for replacement shoulder surgery after a fall at work. The surgery was scheduled for a Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock. As she laid in the pre-op holding room, all connected and wired for the upcoming IV bags, we sat and watched the clock tick. 1:30, 2, 2:30, 3, 3:15. Finally, a nurse wandered in and announced, "The shoulder surgeon doesn't feel well. Go home." Oh, did you just gasp to yourself? Yes, I know. We did too. I helped my mom get dressed, and as we were wheeling her out of the room, the elevator doors opened up, and who bounced out, large cup of coffee in hand, slapping another doctor on the arm and laughing up a storm? Oh yeah, you guessed it, didn't you? It was the supposedly sick shoulder surgeon. Well, he attempted to avert my gaze, but I stopped him and asked, "When are we going to reschedule this surgery for my mom?" He spoke rapidly and answered, "Call my office and Susie Q, my assistant, will reschedule." He shoved his business card into my hand and kept walking. My first shoulda, woulda, coulda moment, wouldn't you say? I should have said, "Whoa, stop, and tell me why we are not going ahead with the surgery today. My mom is prepped and ready." I could have insisted upon a conversation right then and there. What would have happened differently had I found and used my voice? After 2 days of unanswered phone calls, Susie Q called on Wednesday evening to see if we could make it the next morning at 5:30 a.m. The next morning, my mom complained of not feeling well. At the hospital, prior to the surgery, she told the anesthesiologist that she felt badly. They took her blood pressure, which was 80/50. I watched the young intern give a nervous glance to the head anesthesiologist. She ignored his visual attempt to question the low reading. Eventually, the shoulder surgeon sauntered in and asked to see the pre-op EKG. Everyone scrambled around to locate it, but it was not there. Oh, the surgeon made a joke about the inefficient lab and how they didn't send the results to his office. However, I knew better, as I was with my mom when she had the pre-op EKG, and I gave the lab secretary the surgeon's business card with the fax number on it. I watched as she faxed the results, and I even viewed the confirmation report that showed that the results were successfully sent. My next shoulda, woulda, coulda moments. Again, I should have said, "Stop. My mom is repeatedly complaining about not feeling well. Her blood pressure is low. You don't have any of the pre-op results that you may need to use as a comparison should there be a problem." But I allowed my own self-doubt about my lack of medical knowledge to keep me silent. I lost my voice that was speaking inside of me that I shoulda and coulda used to perhaps avert the disaster waiting to happen. What would have happened differently had I used my voice? Well, the rest is history. Moments after the shoulder surgery, and if the actual truth be told, probably during the surgery, my mom was having a heart attack that went undiagnosed until 5 o'clock that afternoon. This missed diagnosis caused 4 months in intensive care, rehab, hospital readmission, rehab, and along with that came 100 more visits from the triplets, shoulda, woulda, and coulda moments. There was the uninvited podiatrist who showed up in the middle of the night and hacked off all of Mom's toenails, which I found early the next morning when her feet were bandaged with bloody gauze. Well, I did fly out of the room to the nurse's station to find out what happened, only to have them tell me, "Oh, we get complaints about him all of the time." If it were today, I would have insisted that the unknown foot hacker show up and speak to us personally about this ghoulish pedicure. Who authorized this? Who are you? What were you attempting to do to her feet? And, hey, buddy, you better not send a bill for this heartless attack. Or what about the drinking straw that accompanied all of her meals, despite the warning on her menu that ordered no drinking straw allowed due to her hospital-acquired swallowing disorder? What more could I have done to prevent that from repeatedly happening? And then there was the rehab facility check-in process, when none of Mom's medical records or charts preceded or accompanied her arrival, and no one knew what a complicated diagnostic mess they had on their hands. With some prior knowledge or experience, I would have known to ask ahead of time, does the rehab facility have Mom's records? If it were today, I would have asked and insisted that I carry those records with me in the ambulance ride from the hospital to the rehab. But I was ignorant and assumed that they would magically transfer and be read and studied prior to our arrival. Wrong. And then there were the aides and LPNs who ran the rehab because there were seldom any trained RNs available. The roving and disagreeing hospitalists who changed Mom's medications daily based on their own biases and preferences. The overly talkative nurse who overdosed Mom with epinephrine. The surgeon who punctured her lung while inserting pigtail drains. The ancient bedsore doctor from nowhere who showed off in front of a circle of interns and pulled bleach wipes from the container on the windowsill and proceeded to clean my mom's stage 4 pressure sore with bleach. And these are just some of what I dare remember, lest I lose my sanity. And yes, I did speak up about all of these incidents, but I should have spoken sooner, louder, and stronger. So what do I learn as I look back? Hindsight is 20/20? Yes, but foresight is just plain smart. I learned that you never really know in the beginning what something might become. Preparation is your friend. And trust this, at some point in your life, you will be in a hospital, either as a patient or as an advocate for someone else. unless, of course, you're a hermit and don't know anyone else. Know that there are hazards, not because doctors and nurses are bad people, but because sometimes the system is bad. Mistakes happen, people are human, and often the system is not set up to succeed 100% of the time. So I say that knowledge is important. And no, I'm not saying to go to med school. Simply be prepared, be on your toes, aware, ask questions, and seek help. Use this radio program to give you the incentive to know more about you, your symptoms, your diagnosis, your treatment, your medications. Dig inside, find your voice, pull it out and use it. Shoulda, woulda, and coulda are not friends. I know that. If something seems wrong, it probably is. Question it. Question others. Question everyone until you feel satisfied. Then proceed knowing that you did all you can to prevent the Hindsight Triplets. Shoulda, woulda, and coulda. And with that, let's hear some legal news you can use. We received a legal question from one of our listeners last week, and I think it best that we get the right answer from our friends at Schraff & King. So let's get Allison on the phone, a smart and friendly attorney who always takes the time to help.
Schraff & King, this is Allison.
Hi, Allison. It's Pat from Speak Up and Stay Alive, Patient Safety Radio.
Hi, Pat.
We have a quick question for you. Do you have a moment?
I always have a moment for you.
All right. Wishy-washy woman wonders. Lots of W's. Wishy-washy woman wonders, what if I change my mind about who I want to be my agent or about the kind of treatment I want?
Well, the wonderful thing about advance directives is that they can be changed at any time. Just because you've executed an advance directive doesn't mean that you're locked into one agent or to one form of treatment or another. So you can certainly execute a new healthcare power of attorney and designate a new agent. That's another reason that we recommend that people review their documents every few years. Circumstances change. You may not even remember who you designated a few years ago, and they may no longer be in your life. So you may want to review those documents to be sure that you have the person that you want to be your agent designated. The documents are not specific, though, as to any other real type of treatment. You're naming someone to make treatment decisions for you as they arise. So it would be more important to review it to be sure that you've designated the person you want to make those decisions.
Great. Well, thank you for taking such good care of our listeners.
Thank you, Pat. I'm happy to help.
If you have not taken care of your advance directives, write this number down and get it done today. Schraff & King. Give them a call at 440-585-1600. They are conveniently located on Som Center Road, just south of Route 6 in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. Or visit them online at schraffking.com. You are listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive, Patient Safety Radio. I am your hostess, Pat Rouleau. I am so pleased to have this highly regarded and esteemed guest with us today. He is Dr. Peter Pronovost, a world-renowned patient safety champion and a practicing critical care physician. His scientific work using checklists to reduce catheter-related bloodstream infections have saved thousands of lives and earned him high-profile accolades, including being named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine, and receiving a coveted MacArthur Foundation Genius Grant in 2008, and regularly addresses the U.S. Congress on patient safety issues. He is Senior Vice President of Patient Safety and Quality and Director of the Armstrong Institute for Patient Safety and Quality at Johns Hopkins Medicine. And he is here with us today to answer some of your most frequently asked questions. Welcome to our show.
Thanks, Pat. It's great to be here.
Well, since this show is all about our listeners, I thought it would be appropriate to reach out to them to write and send their questions for you. So we sent a huge email blast, Facebooked and Twittered your arrival, and we received so many thought-provoking responses. So we'll try to get to as many as we can today.
That sounds perfect.
All right. Inquiring Irene wrote, I've read that hospital mishaps are one of the leading causes of death, yet other than a few places, you never hear, read, or see this. Why is that?
Inquiring Eileen, great question, and this has perplexed Peter to begin to think about that. So, we don't really know how many people died needlessly from errors. But we do know, Irene, that the estimates of 100,000 are far higher. Mm-hmm. Here's what we do know, Irene. 100,000 people die from infections each year that they get from healthcare. 100,000 die from blood clots. 200,000 die from sepsis, 120,000 die from teamwork failures, and about 100,000 die from diagnostic errors, 60 to 70,000 die from decubitus ulcers. Now, all of those aren't preventable, but when we've had focused improvement efforts that were led by clinicians, that were guided by science, and that were evaluated with good measures, 70% of them predictably go away. So you take 70% of all those numbers that I just spouted out, and you have the third leading cause of death on your hands. Third leading cause of death. And nowhere does it get the attention that it does either at a policy level or within healthcare. I'll give you an example. We spend 2 pennies on research in patient safety for every dollar that we spend on finding new genes and new drugs. So we have a pipeline of things that could potentially work, but we're not using them. Our national effort to prevent infections that we did, it started in Michigan and now we spread, was $500,000 a year for 2 years in Michigan. We saved about $150 to $180 million per year on that. I mean, the return is just enormous, but that we haven't been focused on what I call the science of healthcare delivery, and we really need to make sure that it gets the attention that it deserves. And you in this listening audience have a huge role in that, right? I mean, and many levels. I think you can go to your senators and congressmen or women and make sure that patient safety, this work is being supported by research dollars, because there's a lot we need to learn about how it works. And as you're getting care in your community, make sure that your hospitals are focusing on this, that you ask about their infection rates or other harm rates. You make sure that their board is engaged and that they're reporting their measures. At your states, you make sure that the states are reporting the measures that we have for patient safety. Now, the reason why science has to go with this is, frankly, most of the measures that we have either aren't valid or aren't detailed enough to really be informing of what choices you made. So we need to make sure that we report not only what's available now, but that we keep making measures better so that wherever you go to get health care, you can be confident that when you look at the data that they're providing, you can trust that they actually are a safe healthcare system.
Absolutely. I think that's a little bit confusing, and that's going to take us right to this next question. Don't know where to turn asks, what about hospital patient safety scores? There are so many to sort through on the internet, typically without validation of their methodology or data. Are there any one website better than another that you would recommend that our listeners can go to get some sort of sensible clue?
One is cmscompare.gov. It's the government's website. It has some mostly process measures. Unfortunately, we believe the field needs to move more towards outcomes. It does have some infection data, and they vary in how recent they are, but that's a source. The Commonwealth Fund has a great website that reports some performance measures. The Joint Commission, again, mostly process measures, but reports performance measures. The Leapfrog Group has a safety score that I was involved in, but what we try to do was take the available data and aggregate it into a score so that hospitals could be graded. And I think those are the ones that have transparently reported how they came about these scores, so you can look and see what's in it and make at least the data widely available, fully acknowledging we need better measures that are out there. But those are some great places for you to start. And I guess I would add one, many states, their state health departments are also having publicly report data that might be a source for you within your own state.
Thank you. That's excellent advice. All right. Lee in Columbus, Ohio left a voicemail. Pat, I've heard you talk about the patient experience many times on your show. Please ask Dr. Pronovost what his definition of the patient experience is.
Yeah, so great question. You know, we so often forget that the patient experience is as important a domain of quality as an infection or a medication error, and it's valid independent of its own right. Now, luckily, there's standard surveys now that the government requires that measure patient experience. In hospitals, it's called the HCAHPS, and that those data are publicly available, again, on the CMS website, where you can see, and on many states' websites, how patients are reporting the customer's experience. And those surveys often group the patient experience into 10 or 11 different domains, things like pain experience, or nurse communication or doctor communication or cleanliness of the room or the environment or the noise. But let me simplify how I think about patient experience and how we talk about it with our doctors and nurses here. Because oftentimes, when we use vague language, it's easy to hide behind the ambiguity and not do things. So everybody says, well, let's provide patient-centered care. But when I ask doctors and nurses what that means, you might get a variety of different answers. And so in our experience, it really means three key themes. Number one, you involve patients and families in every decision possible. So in the hospital, that means you invite them on rounds. They participate in all the decisions that they need to make, and they're present and part of the care team. Number two, you meet their needs. So that's needs for information, that's need for pain medicine, might be need to get their eyeglasses. I asked the patient what they need. Is an amazing story. This 88-year-old gentleman who was hospitalized, and asked him what kind of needs he had today, what we can do for him. And his answer was, it's my grandson's birthday. I've called him for the last 22 years every day on his birthday. I don't want to miss this. And what he needed was my cell phone. And just to say, okay, here, go call him. Right? But that was what needs he needed to meet. And we needed to be solicitous about what needs patients have and make sure we meet those needs. And lastly, when they're leaving the hospital, we need to make sure that they know how to care for themselves. That is, they know what follow-up appointment they need. They need to know what complications to look out for. They need to know when they're meeting and hopefully have an appointment scheduled. They need to know about the medications that they're supposed to be taking and what they all mean. And what we have to do is begin to move away from these vague ambiguity of patient-centered care and get really specific about, hey, they need to be involved in decision-making. We need to make sure we meet their needs, whatever they are, and they need to make sure that they're able to care for themselves when they leave. And keeping those things in mind, I think, will make us move a long, long way towards improving. And what we're seeing is now, I think in part because hospitals are reporting this patient satisfaction or patient experience data, and it's being used in pay-for-performance systems, that we're finally seeing hospitals put traction and effort on this, and we're beginning to see progress in improving these scores.
I agree. And I think there's a flip side to that, because patients can also then demand that they are in fact involved in every decision. They can also, if they have a need, to feel comfortable to say, hey, I need to use your cell phone, or I need this, or whatever it is that they need. And especially, as you say, when they're leaving the hospital, everyone's so excited just to get out. You know, the car's running in the no parking zone and everyone dashes out, but really, do they know how to care for themselves? So I think as patients, too, we should take some responsibility for those three things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see this as a partnership, Pat, and as we mentioned, it takes, like any relationship, both sides are needed to dance, right? So we're going to have to get patients more comfortable being engaged and involved, at least to the extent they want to. But we encourage them to be more involved because, Pat, there's really a growing body of evidence that the more activated a patient is, that is, the more engaged they are in their own care, the better off their health outcomes are.
Absolutely. All right, Mike from Canada says, when people think of patient safety, they think of safe clinical outcomes. What about the trauma of being treated poorly by healthcare providers? They sometimes don't listen, don't speak so patients can understand, and don't behave with any soft skills. Isn't this a form of patient harm?
Mike, you are so spot on, and you are absolutely right. Unfortunately, healthcare often hasn't labeled that as a harm. We have a project now to eliminate all types of harm in hospital care. We said instead of going on only one harm, like these catheter infections, when patients are at risk for a dozen harm, why would we think it's successful if we prevented one, but yet they're at risk for 9 others? I mean, imagine if we put a satellite up and it didn't blow up for one reason, but it blew up for 8 others. We wouldn't pat ourselves on the back and say, great job, that number one cause didn't get you, but oops, the satellite blew up. And so when we started thinking about this, Mike, what we said is we labeled disrespectful care, the care that you said, where we don't listen to patients or we don't honor them, as a harm every bit as important as an infection or a medication error. It has been transformative on the staff as we're doing this. So we're now lazily focused to say disrespect is a harm and it warrants the same focus as any other harm. And the interventions that we're doing to address that are just breathtaking. It's engaging patients in their decisions. I'll give an example of how we're working to mitigate disrespectful care. Often in the hospital, it's so dehumanizing because we take away your food, you're in a gown, and especially in the ICU, you often don't look like you did when you're well. So just like many of us have family albums that are digital at home that it scrolls through pictures of a family. We now give patients and their families iPads that they load up pictures of themselves, so both their families and the care team could say, hey, here's what they looked like when they're well and what hopefully they're going to get back to. We also have pictures of the care team on that, so they can say, hey, here's the people who are caring for me, and I can communicate with them in a much more effective way. We have a long way to go, but Mike, as you keep pushing us, that brilliant idea of yours of saying disrespectful care is a harm every bit as important as any other harm is a big first step, and we hope many other hospitals begin to take that.
Oh, that's exciting to hear. And I like your idea of, I always tell my listeners, when you go to the hospital, pack a bag ahead of time. And in that bag that you have stashed in your closet, have a little poster of pictures of you and your family when you look normal and post it in your rooms. I like that idea. How can our listeners learn more about you, your work? You have books. How can they find out more?
Sure. Great, Pat. I have a book called Safe Patient Smart Hospitals that we chronicle a lot of our work that they may be interested in. They can go to our website called at the Armstrong Institute for Patient Safety and Quality at Johns Hopkins Medicine. And there's a wealth of training, information, stories. And I also have a blog, Points from Pronovost, that we put ideas out there that we hopefully start a conversation about how we could work on this stuff together. So many ways to get engaged, and the point is that we got to do something. Pat, thanks for your radio show, and I hope your listeners take some action because we have more people dying per year from medical errors, Pat, than died per year in the Civil War. Yeah. And we have to do something about it now.
Well, with people like you at the forefront, I think we're going to be making great headway. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to visit with us.
Sure thing, Pat, and great job.
We interrupt our program to bring you a special broadcast.
Let's spend the next 2 minutes with our resident cleaning and infection preventionist, Daryl Hicks, nationally recognized as one of the top experts in infection control, as well as author of the book, Infection Prevention for Dummies. Daryl, I travel quite a bit for my business and therefore encounter some nasty restrooms. Should I be fearful to even enter?
One of my keen indicators of the dirtiness of restrooms is when you smell the air freshener 10 feet before you get to the restroom, that they're trying to cover up what cleaning ought to do, and that's to remove the soil. And so, if employees are using those restrooms, then I've got to wonder, what does the kitchen look like, or what does the operating room look like?
Right.
I think a lot of people know the difference between clean and dirty. So, we make judgments about the quality of care, that grandma's getting up on the 5th floor if the restroom is dirty in the main lobby. It becomes a benchmark for businesses and especially hospitals, restaurants, those places that ought to be sanitary, and we can eliminate the possibility of illness whenever those who use the restroom have clean facilities and adequate supplies. Then whenever a restroom is cleaned, there's not much need for these heavy perfumed deodorizers. So if you smell those, then you can expect a less than clean environment there in the restroom.
Well, before you go, Daryl, where can everyone order your book?
It's DarrellHicks.com, DarrellHicks.com. My number is 314-956-1177.
So Infection Prevention for Dummies is a free 48-page pocket-sized handbook, so I encourage everyone listening to get this free book. There's a small shipping and handling charge, but for a free book loaded with this kind of information, it's a must-have book, folks. Well, thank you so much for sharing your years of experience with us today. We just love having you on the show.
Thanks, Pat. I like being here, and thanks for inviting me, and thanks for the work that you do in keeping people safe.
You're listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive, Patient Safety Radio. Now you can join us every Saturday morning in Cleveland, Ohio, and in Phoenix, Arizona. Or you can always listen live online from anywhere in the world at the station's websites. I am your hostess, Pat Rouleau. So happy to spend this next hour with you to help you survive any healthcare or hospital encounter. As you know, the boys and I work hard to keep you safe, but that doesn't mean we don't have fun. In fact, each week we venture into the game chamber to find a fun and fact-filled gamelet of sorts to lighten the mood while still sharing important patient safety ideas with you. So today, we dug around and found an old favorite actually created by Bob. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And here's what it is.
Shocking news from around the world.
So here's how it goes. I will read a piece of healthcare news, and the boys and you, our devoted to patient safety listeners, will have to decide if the statement is true, or as we call it, a shock.
Wow.
Or is it false? We call it a crock.
Oh.
All right, guys, are you ready to play shocking news from around the world?
Let's go for it.
Let's do this.
All right, here we go. Here is shocking news number 1. Scientists at Harvard Medical School suggest drinking 2 cups of hot chocolate a day may keep the brain healthy and prevent memory decline in older people. Is that a shock or is it a crock?
What do you think, Bob?
Boy, you caught me off guard on that one. I'm going to say it's a crock. I don't know.
I'm going to agree, crock.
What do you think, Eric?
I don't know. I mean, I thought chocolate was kind of bad for you, so my first instinct is to say crock.
All right.
Wow.
Wrong.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, it is a shock. For their investigation, the team recruited 60 dementia-free people of average age of 73 and asked them to drink 2 cups of hot cocoa a day for 30 days. Half the people drank hot cocoa high in an antioxidant called flavanol, while the other half drank flavanol-poor hot cocoa. Then the team tested their memory and their thinking skills before and after using a set of standardized tests, and then used ultrasound. They also measured the blood flow response to the brain activity as the participants completed certain mental tests. At the start of the study, it took them 167 seconds to complete the test, while at the end, they did it in 116 seconds. What do you guys think of that?
I think that's pretty good. Maybe I need to start drinking hot chocolate instead of coffee.
Any excuse to drink hot chocolate every day.
I was going to say, wouldn't it be wonderful if eating and drinking chocolate was the answer?
Well, if I can have a chocolate-covered donut would be good, too.
Oh, gosh.
You mean it's already not the answer?
Actually, though, after the fact, though, an expert at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in Baltimore said the study is an important first step, but there's more work that's needed to provide that link between cocoa, blood flow problems, and cognitive decline. All right, guys, that was kind of crazy. Now we know about that one. Here is shocking news number 2. Some grocery stores in El Paso, Texas, are attaching mirrors to the front of their shopping carts to encourage shoppers to buy produce. Is that a shock or is it a crock?
I want to say crock. I don't understand. Can't you already look in the shopping cart, see what's there? Why do you need a mirror?
I hope it's a crock.
I'm going to say it's a crock, too. I just have no idea why they would do that.
Oh, you boys, you're wrong again. That is a shock.
Wow.
This is a new marketing technique called nudge marketing, giving the consumer a nudge to do what the store wants them to do. A shopper looks in the mirror and thinks, whoa, I'm fat.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So why would this be happening in El Paso? Well, because in El Paso, 32% of the adults are obese and 12% have diabetes. These numbers make it the perfect place to test out new strategies to nudge people to buy more produce. And then they went even further. These scientists tinkered again with the shopping cart, and they created these placards that hung inside the baskets that tell shoppers how much produce the average customer was buying, 5 items a visit, and which fruits and vegetables were the biggest sellers, bananas, limes, and avocados. Information then that encouraged these shoppers to conform to social norms or acceptable behavior. And then at the second week after this happened, produce sales jumped 10%, and it also jumped a whopping 91% for those participating in the government's nutrition program. This shopping center was so excited that it now plans to put the placards in every cart at all of its 22 stores and maybe in all 146 stores. So why the push to the produce department? Can you guess why?
They're trying to control diabetes and sell more produce.
You only wish. Because along with the meat counter, the produce aisle is one of the most profitable parts of the grocery store, with large volumes and higher than average markups from the wholesale cost.
Oh, wow.
That's shocking.
So it boils down to money, right?
You've got it. What do you think of that, Eric? Do you want to be nudged in the grocery store?
Well, I'm thinking, if maybe it's just me, but if I see my fat reflection in a mirror, I'm just going to be more depressed and buy more chocolate.
Good for you. Buy some cocoa. At least your memory will be intact, right?
Right.
All right. I think that's terrible. Kind of manipulation. So if you see a mirror or placards, don't look. All right, guys, here is shocking news number 3. A health center in Oakland, California reports that teenage girls reapply their lipstick or lip gloss as often as 12 times per day, and that could be hazardous to their health. Is that a shock or is it a crock?
I'm going to answer that one. I know that is a shock because bacteria can build up on cosmetics and that bacteria can get on their lips. So that's my theory.
I'm agree. I'm going to say shock.
I'm going to agree that it's a shock, but I'm wondering, how do you sanitize lip gloss after you've used it, though?
That's a really good question. And I'm going to say that you guys are right mostly, but the answer really is a crock. Oh. But only because the number of reapplications is higher. These girls put lip gloss on 24 times a day. Why could that be hazardous to your health? As Bob said, because it can be contaminated, but also because of the cumulative effects and long-term exposure to known traces of lead, aluminum, titanium, copper, nickel, and other metals found in lipstick. These toxic metals are found in highest concentrations in deep floral pink lipsticks and brown colors. And some companies even add flakes of mica to give a glittery effect to the lipstick. So no more lipstick, you guys.
I'm staying away from it.
To answer your question, Eric, I think if it's lipstick, a normal lipstick, they always suggest maybe wiping it before you use it each time with just a clean tissue, and that way you could take off that top layer. But that pump with the lip gloss that you actually put in the back into the container, it's got the little brush. I don't think there's any way unless you wipe that brush each time.
I have no idea.
All right, so I'll keep that in mind.
When you put your lip gloss on, right, Eric?
Put that lip gloss away, you guys. All right, here's shocking news number 4. Much of the soap tested in public restrooms of 5 major cities, Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, LA, and Columbus, contained more fecal matter than found in the toilets. Is that a shock or is it a crock?
I would say it's a shock.
I think it's definitely a shock because I think Chuck Gerba did the testing on that, if I'm not mistaken. When you push in the soap container and you let loose of it, it draws air into the soap chamber, and it probably really would contaminate the soap. So I would say it's a shock.
Yeah, that's shocking, but a crock?
Hey, you guys, you did good. It is a shock.
Wow.
Sadly, and it was part of a study, Bob, done by our friend, Dr. Chuck Gerba, professor of microbiology at the University of Arizona. How could this be? Well, sometimes it's accidental when airborne particles land in the open soap container, or as you suggested, Bob, kind of gets sucked back in. Other times, the person refilling the dispensers has just finished cleaning the toilets and did not wash his or her hands.
Wow.
Sometimes they just top it off, adding a bit of new soap to the already contaminated soap. So the bottom line, I'm going to bring my own small container of liquid soap with me into public restrooms. And remember, last week we had a guest on that said not to use the air dryer, use paper towels, and no, don't wipe on your pants either. What do you think, Eric? You're learning, huh?
I'm learning.
All right. And here's our final shocking news, number 5. According to researchers at Q-Tex, the fastest growing nail is the one on your middle finger. Oh, I know we can get comments here. Is that a shock or is it a crock? Everyone's dumbfounded.
That's a first. I haven't heard that one before, but I'm going to say it's a shock.
I hope it's a crock. I'm going to go with crock.
I'm just going to say it's a crock because I don't understand how that would work.
Bobby, you are right. It is true. It is a shock. Let me explain it.
Wow. Oh, no.
Well, maybe I can't explain it.
Oh, no.
I guess I can't explain it. How about this? Can you guess which finger has the slowest growing nail?
The thumb.
Yeah, you're right. It's the thumb. According to the Guinness World Records, though, of 2011, the world's longest fingernails belong to a woman named Lee Redmond, and I don't understand how this could be. The fingernails total 28 feet, 4.5 inches long.
Really? This thing, it's as big as a desk. It's huge.
She hasn't cut her nails since 1979. How weird is that? Then I also read this. I read that it's bad luck to cut your nails after dark.
Really?
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, well, I'm not really sure what we're supposed to do with this fingernail information, but here are a few good tips. Get it? Tips?
Oh,
I'm
go
liking this
for
one.
it.
Your tips? Oh, that's funny. Unless your nails are quite long, clipping them will make them more prone to breaking. Instead, file them down to size with an emery board. Keep your nails clean and dry to prevent bacterial and fungal growth, especially if, ladies, or maybe guys, you wear acrylics or other types of artificial nails. Add foods that are rich in zinc to your daily menu, such as hard-boiled eggs or a glass of milk. Zinc will work wonders on your nails, especially if they've got those little white spots. You guys have any white spots on your nails?
Nope.
No.
Good. All right. That's a sign that you're not getting enough zinc in your diet. Well, guys, we've gone and we've learned about hot chocolate and dementia, nudge marketing with mirrors, poisonous lipstick, dirty soap, and long nails on our middle fingers. What more can you ask from us?
I'm going to give that an upside down mom. Wow. Oh.
That's great. That was a good segment.
Oh, I like this one a lot.
This is like information extraordinaire, yeah? Guys? Is anyone there?
I'm here. I'm waiting on Eric to come up with some kind of a saying, but I think he's so dumbfounded he don't know what to say.
Any final thoughts, Eric?
My mind is blown.
Then we did our job, people. Thank you for indulging in the revival of an old game.
Shocking news from around the world.
Do we like this game?
Wow. Oh, I like this one a lot.
Thank you for having me.
And that was fun. I'd like to do it again.
We will do it again. And listeners, don't go anywhere. As usual, we have more tips and tools just for you on America's favorite and most unusual patient safety radio show, Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. Thanks, guys. Listen as I spend the next 2 minutes with Chris Alberta, the Medicare supplement partner with Generation America, as he helps guide us through this confusing maze of choices. All right, so Medicare supplement insurance plans are identified by letters. Folks know that, A, B, and so on. And the plans are standardized. Each plan offers the same basic benefits regardless of which insurance company is offering the policy. How do you and Generation America help with that?
The two biggest players, so to speak, in the Medicare industry, Mutual of Omaha and AARP, they both offer Plan F. Plan F is the same regardless of who you get it from. So when Generation America came to us, they said, look, in every state, there could be 15, 20 different supplementary companies that are offering a Plan F. Who's to say there's not a better deal than AARP? And there certainly is in many, many cases. So even though the benefit is exactly the same, the only real difference is the price that someone's going to pay for that coverage. What we find, Pat, is that about 3.5 out of 5 people are overpaying for their supplement. And that happens because the companies with big names, a lot of notoriety, tend to get the bulk of the business. When they get the bulk of the business, they inherently get the bulk of the claims. And those claims, as they're processed, lead to rate increases. We're able to look at it with Generation America. We have a team dedicated just to their members, where they'll look by zip code at all the Plan Fs, all the Plan Gs, Ns, so on and so forth, and make sure that you're not paying, let's call it $200 a month for a plan that the identical one with another carrier might be $120. We have 10 individuals that specifically deal with Generation America members. What they do specifically, Pat, is customize a plan for a Generation America member or even a non-member. I mean, I would guess that 9 out of 10 people who use that service end up being members of Generation America just because of the kind of service attitude. So when we look at somebody's Medicare, we're essentially looking at the premium, we're looking at the potential health problems. It doesn't make any sense, Pat, to put somebody on a program that might have a bargain basement rate this year, and they could, just escalate wildly over the next couple. So we're looking to really customize a plan just for them, and we treat every single client as if it's the last decision on this they'll make.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. I encourage everyone to contact Generation America to ask these type of questions and get some personalized help. Chris, thank you for joining us today. I know you've helped me, and now you've helped our listeners too.
Hey, anytime, Pat.
Contact Generation America today. Tell them that I sent you. Go to their website, generationamerica.org, or you can call them by phone, toll free, 877-687-4362. You are listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive, Patient Safety Radio, every Saturday morning in Cleveland, Ohio, and in Phoenix, Arizona. I am Pat Rouleau, your hostess and author of the book, Speak Up and Stay Alive, the Patient Advocate Hospital Survival Guide, available at all of our live speaking events or at our website, speakupandstayalive.com. That's where you can also locate radio show times, dates, and station information. That's speakupandstayalive.com. And if you want to purchase the book but do not have internet access, it's okay to call me. Lots of folks order the book by phone, so give me a call, 440-725-5462. I always look forward to hearing from you. Well, today we talked about the regret triplets, coulda, woulda, and shoulda. And you know what? Just by tuning into this radio program each week, you are doing quite a bit to avoid that pesky and haunting threesome. A little knowledge, a bit of experience, and the ability to find and use your voice can overpower hindsight any day. So I applaud each and every one of you out there. I'm proud of you and encourage you to stay on your path. And our guest today, Dr. Peter Pronovost, so passionately answered more of your questions about the state of patient safety today. And not tooting my own horn, but maybe I am. This show attracts and features some of the world's most important movers and shakers within the patient safety world. These folks are dedicated to make healthcare safer, and they never hesitate for a second to share their time with me and you. Our summer just got serious guest lineup this past season was like a who's who in patient safety. And our fall festival Pick of the Patch series promises to continue and further that trend. So I guess what I'm saying is that when it comes to learning about patient safety, this radio program pulls out all the stops to share only the best and the brightest minds with you, our very important listeners. And if you have a topic of concern or interest and would like to perhaps have me address that within the show, I would welcome your thoughts. Email me at speakupandstayalive.com or call me 440-725-5462. Now, if you missed some of today's show and want to be done with coulda, shoulda, and woulda, it's not too late. You can go to the radio link at the speakupandstayalive.com website. Click the link with today's date. That's where you can also purchase the book, Speak Up and Stay Alive, the Patient Advocate Hospital Survival Guide. I say this every week, but I cannot tell you how many people have told me that they take the book with them to the hospital, or they bring it as a gift to a friend in the hospital, simply lay it on the tray table, and how the book cover generates such positive conversations with the healthcare staff. Now, at a glance, they know that you are an E patient. Remember, we've talked about that many times. E stands for empowered and educated, equipped, enabled, and eager to get out safe. So if you do not have a copy, I really do encourage you to have one. And again, if you don't have internet access, it's okay to call me and order 440-725-5462 or go to the website, speakupandstayalive.com. And as always, I think it's very important for me to take a moment to thank all of our radio sponsors and our weekly guest experts, because really, thanks to them, we are here, and that helps keep me safe, and that helps keep you safe. We have Schraff & King, attorneys for all of your advanced planning needs in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. Daryl Hicks, consultant and author of the book, Infection Prevention for Dummies. Generation America, the AARP Alternative. Elizabeth Bailey, author of The Patient's Checklist. Junction Auto Family in beautiful Chardon, Ohio. Hari Khalsa, the Healthcare Whisperer. Casey Quinlan, Mighty Casey Media, and author of Cancer for Christmas. I encourage you to support these fine folks. If you need their information, you can find them at our website, speakupandstayalive.com. And I do encourage you to contact them for any and all of your needs. Oh, and be sure to listen next week. Our guest is someone you've heard on the show before. I just mentioned her. She's Hari Khalsa, also known as the Healthcare Whisperer. She is a patient guide and advocate and helps folks throughout the United States when they need assistance navigating a difficult medical challenge or even medical bills that are wrong. She'll be with us to specifically talk about your privacy when it comes to your medical records and your medical information, and why the HIPAA law can sometimes be a good thing and sometimes not. We've coined her segment, Hari and the Hippopotamus. If you've ever faced that challenge, you need to hear her. And if you've never encountered HIPAA, you need to hear her. So share this with your family, your friends. Walk up and down the street and knock on your neighbors' doors and tell them to mark their calendars and set all their alarms for when? Oh, you know when? Next Saturday morning, where you can find us in Cleveland, Ohio, from 7 to 8 Eastern on AM 1420 WHK, and from 9 to 10 Eastern on AM 1220 WHKW, and from 9 to 10 Eastern on AM 1440 WHKZ. Or you can always listen live via the internet. Check the speakupandstayalive.com website to find out how. And until then, I hope you have a healthy and a happy week. I am Pat Rouleau, and I am your guide to safe and successful healthcare and hospital encounters.
The information provided in today's broadcast is for informational purposes only and was not intended for use as diagnosis or treatment of a health problem and should not be considered as medical advice. If you've missed part of today's show or just want to share the information with friends, you can listen to all of Pat's previous shows at speakupandstayalive.com. Want even more information? Purchase a copy of Pat's book at speakupandstayalive.com. Once again, it's speakupandstayalive.com. Or you can call Pat at 440-725-5462. Until next week, remember, it's okay to ask others to wash their hands. You have to speak up and stay alive. Brought to you by Generation America, the smart and traditional 50-plus membership organization. If you're looking for quality Medicare supplement, their rates are lower than the other 50-plus organization. To join and to find out more, visit generationamerica.org.